Okay, Andrea, I'm taking a look here at your ePortfolio. I like the use of color. You've got pretty good contrast, so your text is easy to read. I like the quote here, and it looks like you've got all of the products so far that we've completed in the course. Just make sure that any changes that you still make to any of these texts that you also update your ePortfolio. Here under gallery, okay, it looks good. A lot of images. And you've got your educational philosophy. Okay, so very good start. You may decide here to include this information in the About You page. It certainly can go here as you have it, but you might also decide to put this here in this section. Just keep in mind that this ePortfolio can also serve really to host any of the work that you do in the BA. So you might think about how you want to later, or even this semester if you decide to, what titles or headings that you want to choose here in this navigational bar along the top. Certainly for the purposes of this course, the way you have it is fine, but you might decide, for example, to add a couple of categories here that correspond with the strands in the BA, for example. So you might want to keep that in mind. Okay, Vero, looks good. I like the contrast between this bar here at the top. Your text is pretty easy to read. However, your name does tend to get a little bit lost here. So I like the idea that you have your name here, but you might want to either change the color of the font or have some sort of background so that your name doesn't get lost. I like the use of the navigational bars here. Okay, it's very simple and easy to navigate around. As I mentioned before, you might consider thinking in terms of other course work that you do and how you want to organize your academic folder or your ePortfolio in terms of categories or sections that you add to this navigational bar. So you might, for example, have an area for the practicum strand, or you might have one for applied linguistics and so on. So you can always go back and change these headings accordingly depending on what type of information that you want to include. I like the use of quotes here. This is nice. Under the About, okay, you've got your educational philosophy, so this is nice and it's easy to read. There's a way for people to contact you, and I really like the badge that you have here. This is great. I like this, how the reader can go directly to your LinkedIn profile account. So well done there. Unit 1, okay, so you've got your essay, very good. So this is a very good example of an essay that I feel looks organized. The spacing looks appropriate. Notice the use of single space where maybe you had double spaced in the written document, but for the purposes of publishing the same work online, for me, I think it looks nice to have it as single space. Excuse me. So yeah, it looks nice here, single spaced and then double spaced between the paragraphs. You have the reference heading here. You might even decide to center the references here, but it certainly looks okay the way you have it. I know this is not exactly the way we have it for APA, but again, for the purposes of publishing, I like what you've done with this particular essay. You might want to check your year here to see if there's a way to change this. It looks a little awkward having it dated 2023, so you might double check that. Okay, so yeah, it looks good, Vero. Nice job. Okay, Jareli, looks good. My portfolio, you've got your name here in the front. Now, I don't know if it's on my computer, but this text looks a little bit difficult to read. I don't know if it's the size. The font itself is okay. There's nothing wrong with the font, but the size of it looks either a little bit small, or perhaps if you notice, especially towards the bottom, there's not a lot of contrast between the white font and then the green background. As you go down the screen, the green becomes more faint, and for me it looks a little bit difficult to read. So you might want to double check that. You've certainly got enough space if you wanted to make the text a little bit larger, and or another color, or even an outline around the text. So maybe experiment and see see what you can do with this. You might also I don't see the LinkedIn link, so you might want to double check that. And Andrea, I don't believe I saw it either on your portfolio. So you might want to take a look. Beto has done a nice job including a badge, which I think looks nice. But at least if you don't want to use a badge, just I would have at least a link. Just type in the text LinkedIn profile so that the reader can go to your online resume. Okay, this is nicely organized. So under composition course, you've got each of the units. Okay, so you've got, notice here that how it becomes a little bit difficult to read. So again, double check that. The spacing looks fine. The font itself looks fine, and even the size is probably okay, except for the fact that as you go down, it becomes harder to read because of the contrast between the background and the color of the font. Okay, so unit 2. Okay, this is nice. I like how you've done this. Now I'm wondering if there's a way, so just notice how I navigate here. So after I read the purpose, if I wanted to go back without having to click the backspace, I wonder if there's a way to go to the other letters that you've written here. Okay, I don't see all of your content also, so you might want to double check your site, see if that you have uploaded everything there. This text looks a little bit small. Maybe you could maybe have this a little bit larger. What I would recommend is whatever font that you choose for, let's say, this for this particular assignment, I would be consistent. I would use the same font for each of these 4. Now the cover letter, yeah, so notice how this is a different color font. And again, I don't know if I'm missing it. I don't see the recommendation letter, so double check that. And again, I would just be consistent with the fonts that you're using. Probably even use the same font that you used for the essay. So whatever you choose, I'll leave that up to you. I mean, if you want to change the font between the essay and Unit 2, the business correspondence, that's fine. But I think I would be consistent with the business correspondence that you include here. Okay, nice. I like how you've included the badge here. You might also include your, okay, I see. So you have your contact information here. So yeah, your contact information, unless there's a way to contact you via LinkedIn, another option would be to include the badge in the About You. And then if you wanted to include a form where someone could contact you if you wanted them to contact you via your ePortfolio, which I think is a good idea. I think Beto had a form, if I'm not mistaken. But usually Wix, I think, has a form already set up where you can, I think, easily include that if you choose to. It's not a requirement, but certainly it's optional. And again, I think it's a good idea to do that so that you have a way for others to contact you via your ePortfolio. Okay, so very nicely done. Okay, Motse. All right, I like the visuals here, like the background, the marble look here. That's nice, and your navigational bar is very clear, straightforward. Okay, you've got your educational philosophy and a link here. All right, double check your link to make sure there should be a public view or a public link for your profile, so that when the user clicks on the link, it takes you directly to the profile. So double check to see if there's a way that someone can view your profile without having to sign into LinkedIn. Again, I think there is a way to do that. But if not, let me know. We can discuss it. Okay, so going in here, looks like you've got your essay, so this is good. Now, if this is the title, what characteristics make good English teachers, you might include that at the beginning, at the kind of center to the page. It may not even be necessary. For me personally, it's not necessary to include the title explanatory essay. I think if you just want to title your essay, have it centered, that would be fine. But I like how you've spaced, you've added appropriate spacing between the paragraphs. Again, this is slightly different than what we expect in Microsoft Word, but again, this looks nice for the purposes of publishing it online. And you've got your references here. Double check your spacing. It looks like this last reference is a little bit off to the right. So double check that. Otherwise, it looks good. Okay, Jonah. Yeah, your website looks really good. I like the effect of when you first enter into the site. I like the direct link right into LinkedIn from the home page. Certainly this is an option. Some students also choose to include this in the About Me page, but that's a personal choice, and I'll leave it up to you to decide how you want to do that. Looks like you've got some social networking sites here. I don't know if you've chosen to use these yet. I'm just experimenting here, testing each one of these out. The idea with this, my understanding, is that if you have, for example, your Facebook page that you want to share with others, you would include the link to your Facebook page here. Similarly, you would do the same for LinkedIn. If you had a YouTube channel, SoundCloud, and a Twitter account, you would insert those. If you're not going to use them, I would recommend removing them. You can always decide later to add those if you wish, but certainly for the purposes of my class, it's optional. But I personally do like this type of arrangement if you are inclined to share this information along with your professional ePortfolio. I like how you have your name here. It's, for my personal preference, it could be a little bit larger. I mean, you've got your name here in the center, and you have your name here. I don't know. It's a personal choice here. I think, you've got it here in the center. Maybe that's enough, unless this is going to be a consistent. Let me check here. Let me go to your profile. Okay, I don't see anything under profile. So double check this. If you're going to have your About Me, or if you're going to call it profile, which is fine, that just double check. Make sure that you have the link to that space. Okay, I see what you're doing. So the idea here with your name is that this is going to be a consistent, it's going to be fixed on all of the pages, and I think that's a very good idea. So the main page is fine. That's fine if you want to leave it the way it is. I see now what you want to do. But notice that some pages, the contrast, you lose the contrast here. So you might choose a coloring scheme either that is different depending on the background that you're using, or that you're using the same color combination so that it has good contrast on all of the pages that the user visits, so that, again, you don't lose your name like you do here. And notice here also, you kind of lose some of the task bar or the navigational bar. It's okay if you scroll over, if you put the cursor over, it's fine, but notice how you kind of lose it when you're not scrolling over the navigational bar. So I would suggest choosing those color schemes that you never lose the bar, that it's always visual, and it's always visually available to the user at any time. So there's no problems kind of getting around the site. I like how you have your essay here and the use of the title. That's nice. You might choose to double space. If you looked at some of your classmates, personally, I think looks a little bit, it makes it a little bit easier to read to double space. So again, this is a little bit different than what we've talked about when we write in Microsoft Word. I think it's perfectly acceptable to single space within the paragraphs and double space between each paragraph. Doing the same with the references. You might consider bolding the reference here And I don't know if this is bold text, but it's okay the way it is. It just looks. I think I would have the same bold text, like whatever text you have here, have the same here, and references I would put even a stronger bolded text so that it just distinguishes it from the rest of the text. You've got your work here, recommendation letter, and formal email. I know we've talked about the cover letter, and really goes out to everybody. I think I would go ahead and include the cover letter in your ePortfolio. We had talked about possibly including it in the profile, or I'm sorry, the LinkedIn profile. But I think we'll include that in your ePortfolio. So for those of you who haven't, please go ahead and upload it to your ePortfolio, the cover letter or the last assignment that we did for Unit 2. Make sure that you're not using any information that is, in this case, I would not include any email information. In this particular case, you could just include your name. That's fine for the purposes of publishing this, just so that you're not giving out your real email and perhaps subjecting yourself to spam later on. Again, this looks like a fake phone number. That's fine. And if this is a fake email, that's fine. Again, it's optional if you even want to include an email for the purposes of publishing this letter in your ePortfolio. But other than that, I think you've got a really good start, Jonah. And again, I look forward to seeing the rest of it as we proceed on through the class. Okay, Mariana, looks good. This is very easy to read. Good contrast between the background and the text. And this is similar to what I mentioned with Jonah's, that these icons are really designated for sharing other social media that you're affiliated with. And so if you're going to use those, I think it's great to use those if you want to share this information. But if you don't, I wouldn't include these. I would probably remove these so they're not visual, so that because otherwise the user is going to want to try to click on those and there's nothing there. So I don't think I would use those if you decide not to. For the purposes of this class, of course, it's optional. You don't have to include other social media. But again, this is going to be a personal choice, and if you want to do that, that's fine. But otherwise, I think I would remove the icons. Now, notice this color here. If there's a way to include a different color, because the contrast originally, the white font appears very clearly, but once you put the cursor over it, you lose it. So I wonder if there's another color option that you can select there. Double check your link. I'm not sure if this is what you want. If you want to link to your Facebook, I would really ask you to consider whether or not you want to include a link to your Facebook page at this point. Remember that the purpose of the ePortfolio is to maintain a space for professional purposes. This is your personal professional space, and if you want to include it with your Facebook, that's fine, but I would think about that. If you're going to include a link to your Facebook account, this is where you would do it. You could include it here in this icon, where naturally somebody would want to click on that if they see this icon, instead of having a different space with a link. And I would suggest your educational philosophy and this form to contact you. I would include this in the About Me page. So notice that you have the home page and then an About Me page. And I would you include some of this information that you have on your home page and include this in your About Me page. Don't see your essay, so double check that. Make sure you've uploaded your essay and the rest of the products that we've been working on in class. Take a look at some of your classmates' navigational bar, and also think about other work that you've been accomplishing, not only this semester but in prior semesters, to see if you want to make other decisions about how you want to include your navigational bar here. the video that I shared, or the presentation that I shared about ePortfolios, I mentioned one way is to consider the BA, the program, or the syllabi. I'm sorry, the curriculum that we have here in the BA, so that you can choose, for example, the practicum strand. You might have a section in your ePortfolios for the practicum strand. You might have a section on applied linguistics and so on. So you could really create titles based on those strands. And even if you don't have any information in there at this point, you could always add to it later as you go along. But for the purposes of this class, certainly whatever you have here is just fine. There's no problem. And again, this is something that you can decide to change later on. Okay, Pepe, looks good here. The contrast between Pepe's blog here looks a little bit hard to read. Again, I don't know if it's my computer, but double check. Maybe you can change the color here. The navigational bar, I like how you have it up here, looks good. It looks a little bit on the small side. Again, this is, I'm looking at this on a desktop computer, but it just looks a little bit on the small side or hard to read side. It just looks like you could change maybe the size. So your educational philosophy, this looks good. I like the background, but notice that the text is a little bit hard to read. And so you might double check either the color or decide to put maybe a box as a background to, again, maybe make it a little bit easier to read. Because some of the clouds, as they go across here and the white text, you kind of lose a little bit of the of your educational philosophy. Okay, good. This looks good here. I would include the title in large text, and it's not necessary to include explanatory essay. I think I would just include the title of your essay here in this main title. Maybe put references in bold and have maybe single space within each reference and double space between each reference. Check your spacing here under this retrieved. I'm not sure why this is over. For the purposes of publishing online, don't worry about necessarily the inverse indentations as you did in the Word document. You can have everything flush left is fine, but again, I think I would single space within and double space between each of the references. Notice how here the only way to go back is to hit backspace, and some students choose to maintain the navigational bar throughout the pages, so that's another option. Certainly how you have it is fine, but you also have a choice if you want to include the navigational bar here so that the user can jump around without having to hit the backspace button. So you might think about that. But that looks okay. This looks good here. So yeah, it looks good. Okay, Daniela, nice main page here. I think I would include your educational philosophy though in your profile page. In your profile page, I would remove any extraneous information, any information that maybe was included in the template that doesn't pertain to you. I would remove. And in your profile page, you'll want to include a link to your LinkedIn profile. And this really goes for everyone, but make sure that you have a link to your LinkedIn profile. And some students have included badges, which is a personal favorite of mine. I like how those look. Okay, so here's yours, Daniela, so that's fine. All right, I think I would include, though, the LinkedIn link in the profile. So you have like the educational philosophy and then the link to your LinkedIn profile. To me, those two go nicely together. And the contact, I like how you have the information here, this form. But again, I think I would look at maybe moving the LinkedIn badge over to the profile account. Make sure that if you're going to use these social media sites, that these are directed towards your own website. So Facebook, to your Facebook page, your Twitter account, your Google Plus account. And again, if you're not going to use them, which it doesn't appear that you are using them at this time, I would suggest removing these from your page. And again, all this information down here I would remove if you're not going to use it. Okay, Nereida. Okay, looks good here. I'm not sure if it's necessary to put your age. If you want to include that information, maybe include it in your LinkedIn profile. So you'll probably want to have a page that's for your about me, or maybe profile, and here where you have the title educational philosophy, you could put about me or about, or even profile, or even contact, depending on how you want to organize your ideas. But here, this is where I would include the LinkedIn badge. Okay, so this is good, very easy to read. Okay, so this is nicely done. Got your ideal job, recommendation letter, very good. I would include the cover letter as well. We didn't talk about that in class, but I think I would include that. And some of the comments that I've been making, and some of you I know are still changing some of your text, so feel free as you make those changes in your Word document that you go ahead and make those same changes in your ePortfolios. But yeah, this looks good. Nice contrast. And let's see how the rest of it goes the rest of the semester. And you might decide later to change these around so that maybe the navigational bar extends out a little bit more towards the right, if that's an option. But the way you have it is fine also. Okay, nicely done here. So you're about me. Okay, I like that effect. That's nice. So going from the main page to about me slides up. I would include also your badge to your LinkedIn profile. I don't see that here. Okay, so you've got Unit 1. All right, so this is an interesting way of navigating around your website. I like this. Notice how it's quite different than the others, so you don't all have to do the same thing. You can kind of mix up how you navigate around. Okay, so the purpose statement. Okay, nice. Now from here, okay, so you can go to Unit 2. All right, this is an interesting way of navigating. This is, I like this. I would make these, I know these, I don't know if these images are ones that you created. Okay, but again, I like it. This is interesting. All right, just make sure that I'm looking for Unit 2. So this is Unit 1, Unit 1 essay. Okay, there it is. Okay, nice. I would probably add double space between each of the paragraphs. Other than that, and if there's a way to make the title a little bit larger or bolder, just kind of so it kind of stands out a little bit. And you could even increase the size of the font slightly. It certainly looks okay the way it is, but for my personal taste, it's a little on the small side, but just a suggestion. Okay, so this is Unit 1 and then Unit 2. All right, so that's a little bit, I'm not sure. If I click on Unit 2, should I see the purpose statement? So you might check that, Diana. It looks like, because this now is your purpose statement. So like, where would I find the rest of Unit 2 text? All right, so I really like the way you've started the navigation, but I think there's a little bit, some changes still that you need to do, because I can't find the rest of your products. And maybe they haven't been uploaded yet, but double check this and make sure that for in this case, if I click Unit 2, that somehow I can navigate to the 4 different products that we completed for Unit 2, if that makes sense. So you've got a good start here, Deanna. Just double check your navigation around and make sure that we can get to all the products here for your work. Okay, guys, just some general feedback for everyone. I hope you have an opportunity to really listen to all the feedback that I give to everyone so that we all benefit and kind of compare what we have, what you have with what your classmates have. If anybody has technical problems or issues you want to discuss, let me know. Ask me in class. Come by my office. We can look at it and discuss it. Go ahead and continue uploading as we go along into Unit 3 and 4, and I'll look at it again at the end of the semester. I'll look at it again throughout, of course, but you'll get another grade at the end of the semester for um, having completed a professional-looking ePortfolio. And what I mean by professional portfolio, simply, is it easy to read? Is there good contrast between the text and the background? And navigation, is the navigation a good experience? That is, can we easily find the information and navigate back and forth? And as we've seen here, there are several different examples of how that might look. There's not inherently one better way to do it, but it should be easy to do. It should be easy to find information and navigate around the website. So I've seen some really good examples here. Keep up the good work, and we will continue working with your ePortfolios this semester.